Oh my god, are we ever gonna get a break?
What do you mean?
We've been going through this adventure, The Imprecations of the Vampire Baron, for like a year now. And we haven't had any breaks. I want to take some downtime. I want to build that stronghold I mentioned in our session 0. Yeah, and I wanted to use the pit fighting downtime activity because it's like crazy lucrative. Well, I just wanted to craft a near infinite amount of scrolls. But there's a big looming evil threat causing evil, and if you stop and take a break, you might let evil win. Are you sure you want to do that?
Yes.
Hell yes! Absolutely! But this adventure structure doesn't support that. Do you want to be a better dungeon master? Me too. Hi, William Tramp, also known as This Effin' GM here, and today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite ways to present a pre-written adventure, the Zipper Adventure Structure. Now, there are many different ways to present a pre-written adventure, many of the names of which are embedded deep within our dungeon master brains as part of the shared language that we have, our tabletop role-playing game jargon. We have one-shots, which we expect to give us 1 or 2 game sessions of play. A lot of adventure anthologies, like Fantastic Lairs, are built with these types of adventures in mind. Then we have modules, a short-form adventure which we expect to span somewhere between 2 to 10 sessions, give or take a shopping trip session or 2, and often has a self-contained story or location. Old School Essentials has been making their name with these types of adventures, or modules, following in the footsteps of the original Dungeons & Dragons games, and many adventure anthologies will collect these types as well. Then we have our big adventures, which span a fair amount of time to play, sometimes months or even years, and these cover a wide range of levels for the players. This is what we most often see from Wizards of the Coast now, with adventures like Wild Beyond the Witchlight or Curse of Strahd. Now, kind of to the side, we have our sandboxes, or location-based adventures, which are often less about a plot running through the game, and more about exploration of an area and the possibilities for emergent play. My favorite example of this being Rapanathuk by Frog God Games. Now, every so often, you get your epic adventure or adventure paths, the one adventure that runs from level 1 to the highest level the game offers, intended to encompass everything these characters will do. Paizo made this their primary model for years during their first edition of Pathfinder. Old school D&D fans will see this in the form of Dragonlance's War of the Lance. Now, there are many other styles of presenting an adventure, although I would argue that most of the styles that can be mentioned are variations on one of these themes that I just mentioned. But one particular variation or hybrid that I want to talk about today is something of a lost art from official adventures that are being released by large gaming companies such as Paizo or Wizards of the Coast today, and that is the Zipper Adventure. The name Zipper Adventure, by the way, is my attempt to categorize this particular playstyle, as I have yet to see an agreed upon nomenclature for what I am about to describe. I asked Sean K Reynolds, who works as a game designer for Monte Cook Games, Monte Cook being the most prolific Zipper Adventure designer I've ever seen, and Sean confirmed with me that there's not an industry term yet, so if you're unhappy with my attempt to create a designator, blame Sean. Also, if you're unhappy with the name Zipper Adventure itself, just remember, I could have called it Tramping the Dungeon. Okay, the Zipper Adventure structure. What is it? What are some examples of this structure? And how can you use it to make your home games better? Alright, what is the Zipper Adventure structure? Well, first, the Zipper structure is one of my favorite structures for adventure design. But a much more useful explanation for you would be that a Zipper Adventure is a pre-written adventure structure that presents multiple shorter adventures that are connected by a single story thread, with gaps of time and level left in between the adventures to allow for unrelated adventuring to occur. I want you to imagine a zipper. In this analogy, the story thread is the tape, and the adventures are the teeth on one half of the zipper. By itself, the adventure feels unfinished, kind of like how your zipper on your jacket seems kind of odd until you connect the other side. In this analogy, you can think of your adventurers as the pull and their actions as the slider. Sure. Zipper adventures are sometimes presented with another zipper adventure and are designed to fit together in such a way that the gaps on both are covered, creating one massive adventure with multiple story threads weaving together. But most often, the zipper adventure has no pair, allowing a dungeon master to use modules or one-shots as the individual teeth to fill in those gaps. Many of my examples of the zipper adventure structure comes from Monty Cook. Monty, the owner of Monty Cook Games, is in my opinion the undisputed master of the zipper adventure structure, though to my knowledge this is not a structure that he uses often in his current company. But back in the day, the days of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition, Monty Cook was one of the most prolific game designers for TSR. In particular, he wrote extensively for the Planescape line, where we can see the zipper adventure structure in full force. First up, we have The Great Modron March by Monty Cook and Colin McComb, and this is probably one of the most well-known of the zipper structure style. The story thread of following the mechanical march through the multiverse ranges from levels 1 to 10, and to my knowledge that The Great Modron March is a standalone zipper, but there's kind of an implied sequel to the storyline, which is another well-known zipper adventure called Dead Gods. Okay, well, Dead Gods is actually the collective name given to two separate zipper adventures that were designed to be able to interlock with one another. On one hand, we have Out of the Darkness, and on the other, Into the Light. You don't necessarily have to connect them, though. In Out of the Darkness, the malevolent machinations of the master of the mysterious Modron March reveals itself through a zipper ranging from levels 6 to 9. And then the companion, Into the Light, presents a completely separate story thread of a similar level range, dealing with a mysterious abandoned temple of the City of Sigil. One great tool that's provided in this text is a detailed explanation of the zipper adventure and how it's intended to work. Dead Gods also includes a handy chart for the dungeon master showing how the gaps in Out of the Darkness can be filled by Into the Light to complete a greater whole, although they take a lot of care to inform the DM that's not necessary to put them together to get the full story of one or the other. Now, this, again, pops up a lot in the Planescape line. We see this here in Hellbound, The Blood War, which incorporates another zipper adventure within its pages, and the anthology Tales from the Infinite Staircase, which can be seen as a zipper adventure, though this one is somewhat of a variant as it allows the teeth to be presented out of order, which then affects the overall thread. The structure of adventure design, this particular structure of adventure design, was a clear favorite of Monty Cook, as when he spun off from Wizards of the Coast, he released his own setting, Ptolis. For Ptolis, two zipper adventures were created, the Banewarrens and the Night of Dissolution, and though they were released and presented separately. But if one were to look at chapter 33 of the core book dealing with adventures within the city, you can see that the designers provided yet another handy chart for how you can use one-shots and small locations that are presented in the text, the Night of Dissolution, and the Banewarrens to create a full-length adventure that touches on all of the major themes of the Ptolis setting. Now, another example I have of the zipper method comes from the 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons, somewhat incorrectly named, Sunless Citadel Adventure Path. The Sunless Citadel, which was written by Bruce Cordell, who now amusingly works for Monty Cook Games, introduces hints of a great and evil dragon threat by the name of Ashardalon. But as you move through the further adventures that are categorized as part of this adventure path, there are no meaningful mentions to the Great Dragon until the final adventure of the series, the Bastion of Broken Souls. This could arguably be seen as a zipper adventure structure if we assume that the Sunless Citadel and the Bastion of Broken Souls are the only two teeth in this zipper. Now, another famous example of a zipper adventure style would be the Rod of 7 Parts by Skip Williams, which was also written for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition. This zipper adventure presents a fetch quest for the famed artifact, the Rod of 7 Parts, making it one of the best zipper modules to drop into any existing game, even if for nothing else than as a model for how to gather powerful pieces of a larger MacGuffin. Sadly, there wasn't an implied companion to this zipper, although one could argue that the Age of Worms adventure path that was created for Dungeon Magazine's issues 124 to 135 was perhaps intended to incorporate this zipper into the structure, but the lack of gaps in that adventure path make this somewhat of a dubious claim. Now, there are undoubtedly other examples of the structure that can be found throughout tabletop role-playing games, but because of the lack of an official or accepted terminology for this structure, research has proven extremely difficult for me. If you know of other adventures, whether they be for Dungeons & Dragons or for a different system, or whether they are made by a large company or a small one, please let me know in the comments. I love the Zipper adventure structure because I think it's one of the best tools for presenting games to your home table. You know what? I should probably explain that. Why do I love Zipper adventures? Well, one, Zipper adventures take some load off of the Game Master. Story games are not everyone's jam, but I personally find them extremely useful from a reducing workload perspective. Like any story adventures include various factions working towards some goals. Now, as a dungeon master, I actually struggle really hard with designing factions, as it's sort of hard for me to divorce my own knowledge of the character's actions from the faction's knowledge of the character's actions, which sometimes leads to my villainous factions seeming to be all-knowing and like with infinite resources, right? Well, enter the Zipper adventure. I get a short-form use of a villainous faction with a framework as to the various steps their organization might take in the form of individual adventures, which reduce my anxiety and workload, and my players get a thread to be able to discover context to previous and future endeavors. The world feels bigger than a series of random encounters. Zipper Adventures, number 2, Zipper Adventures allow players more freedom. This is especially true when compared to modern adventure designs from Wizards of the Coast and Paizo. A lot of the modern big adventures or epic adventure paths take into account everything a player group will do from beginning to end, and they often forget to include downtime. The gaps provided by Zipper Adventures are not just gaps in level, they're gaps in time. This gives the players a chance to take a break, and it's built in, so they can research, they can train, they can build that stronghold that they've been bugging you about since the first session. Zipper Adventures can be very player-friendly, as long as the Dungeon Master takes advantage of the time granted to give their players some breathing room. Third, and finally, Zipper Adventures provide a Dungeon Master the best of both worlds in terms of story and freedom. Short-form modules are being created all the time for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, whether it be in the form of an adventure anthology like Where Evil Lives by MCDM, and also from great up-and-coming designers who put their things for sale on DM's Guild, Drive-Thru RPG, or similar sites like this. In fact, you can see one of mine below in the thing. A wink. Or from any number of other sources who are out there doing the Lord's work of creating more fun. Zipper Adventures give you a long-term game plan, but allow space for these shiny new toys to be put in. This is great for me, because I often find myself seeing a short adventure or a little dungeon crawl that I really want to run for my friends, but I don't have the time to do so. With Zipper Adventures, a lot of my problems with this are solved, because the gaps are waiting for me. Also important to note is the benefit for newer game masters or fledgling adventure designers. The gaps provided by the Zipper structure provide a great area for homebrew design. Are you not feeling up to designing an entire level 1 to 20 adventure on your own? Yeah, who is, right? Design small while using the Zipper adventure structure to keep your players hooked through the campaign as a whole. I love the Zipper adventure structure, and I honestly wish this style was more often utilized in modern game design. But anymore, Zipper adventures are somewhat of a lost art in mainstream gaming, which I think is pretty sad because the value this structure provides players and game masters, old and new, is phenomenal. Look, I highly recommend taking a look at how you can utilize this Zipper adventure structure in your own games. I've placed a link to each of these Zipper adventures that I mentioned in the video in the thing below. And again, if you know of any other adventures, whether they be for Dungeons & Dragons or a different system, or whether they are made by a large company or a smaller indie one that use the Zipper adventure structure, please let me know in the comments because I could always use more. Otherwise, I want to thank you for joining me in this explanation, and I hope to see you soon.